You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blaine of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
Well, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of the Ground Transportation Podcast. My name is Ken Lucci from Driving Transactions. I'm blessed today to be with a special guest, but I want to call out the fact that my partner in crime, James Blaine, is sadly from PAX Training, is not here today. He's out training a group of chauffeurs, perhaps a group of motorcoach drivers. So sadly, I'm doing this solo. But I am so blessed to have a special guest, Ashwini Anburajan. Correct me.
Ashwini Anburajan, but it's great to be here.
Ashwini Anburajan, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of an exciting company called Obi, OBI. RideObi.com is the website. Now, I found you, full disclosure, by the report that came out on your company and you in Forbes.
Oh, amazing. I didn't realize that.
So we have a lot of databases. We have access to a Bloomberg terminal, but we also have every day Factiva comes to us.
Yeah.
Dow Jones comes to us on anything we track in mobility. And you came to us, and I was so impressed with, the title of Forbes, and I'm going to let you talk about it, is Obi is the Kayak of Rideshare. So give us an idea or give us a description of Obi, and please give us your bio and what brought you to this exciting opportunity to be Chief Executive Officer of Obi.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So Obi is a rideshare aggregator. So you can see prices and wait times in one screen. So if you're in New York, you can compare Uber, Lyft, Curb, and Power in a single app. In San Francisco, it could be Waymo, Uber, and Lyft. In London, it would be Free Now, Bolt, Uber, Addison Lee, etc. We call it the Kayak for Rideshare because this meta aggregation and search has existed in the airplane and the travel industry for a very long time. It has not actually existed, though, in ground transportation. And there are many players out there. There are many options for rides. And some people want a luxury ride, but some people just want to ride as quickly as possible to where they need to go. And they're willing to pay whatever they need to for it. Obi users are power users of rideshare. They use rideshare. I have multiple rideshare apps on their phone. So the app is very easy to use, right? You simply put your location in. You can deep link into the different rideshare providers, and you can use the app in 175 countries. And we've grown to over 1 million users. And I'm really excited to be in the new role. I was Chief Revenue Officer, joined the company in October 2023, and in August took the CEO role. So
nice. Now you
exciting.
have a great bio, though. You've got
Thank you.
something. Were you an NBC reporter at one point?
I was. I started my career in politics covering Barack Obama's 2007-2008 campaign.
How we harken back to those years.
Yeah.
We don't get political here, but I'm just going to say that. But go ahead.
Yeah, so
That's great.
It's what's called a digital embed. So you live on the road, you chase the candidates around with a camera and a microphone and a recorder. You put your stories on a BlackBerry. I'm aging myself, but it was literally I was out of college. I was out of college, and that's what I did. And I did that for at NBC, and I saw that the media industry was changing. I was interested in technology. And I decided to go to business school, and straight out of business school, I started working at BuzzFeed as a new model for digital media. And you asked me how I came to Obi. It's because at BuzzFeed, I was introduced to the concept of consumer data. And I was put in charge of a data network and had to monetize that data for BuzzFeed. And that really set me on the trajectory of my career. What I'm really good at is working at consumer applications, figuring out how to monetize the data behind that application. And I came to Obi because they had an incredible data set on rideshare pricing, consumer location, et cetera, and had known the founder for a long time. And he said, we need to figure out how we monetize our data set. And I said, I think I can help you do that. So we started publishing reports our global rideshare report, for example, our report on Waymo pricing, and we began to monetize the data set. So the app is free to use for consumers. It's not subscription based. We don't always collect affiliate fees on the ride, so you're really getting a very true picture of what's available at the moment. But we do monetize the data that we're collecting on the back end.
Sure. So to distill this down, if I wanted to, I could just have the Obi app instead of having all of the different apps on my phone, correct?
No, you still need the different apps on your phone because we don't manage
You still
booking.
need to be a subscriber. You still need to be the subscriber. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So walk me through it at a 6th grade level because I'm old.
Totally.
I open up the Obi app and tell me what happens.
Yeah. So you open up the Obi app. It's going to ask you to link your accounts across different providers. So you can link into Uber, you can link into Lyft, to Curb, Bolt if you're in Europe, Careem if you're in the Middle East, for example.
What's the other one? We Ride?
No. There's Yango and Careem are the biggest. I think
Gotcha.
I think it's a smaller provider, but we don't have it yet, to be honest.
Yeah, they're in China. They're China making their way over.
Okay. And so in Mexico City, you can have Didi, like, for example. So it does require you to, on some level, to download different apps, right? But you can link the apps, and whether you're linked or not, you will see a search. You will see the pricing. And what it does is that it gives you the pricing. It compares Uber, Lyft, Didi, Careem, depends on where you are. And you can deep link in, and you can sort by ETA, you can sort by price, and you can sort by type of ride. So if you want a premium car or a large car, for example, in certain markets, we have black car companies as well. So you'll see Carmel Sedan, for example, in New York and Chicago. And that's something that we're trying to do, is to bring more smaller and independent companies onto the app in itself.
Well, we can help you with that.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think that, one of the big focuses is that rideshare is, you asked how I ended up in this role. Like, I have cut down on my rideshare spend, but like, I live in Brooklyn. It was like, I used to be one of those people that would take the subway at 2 a.m. And during the pandemic, that habit stopped as it needed to. And so it just started taking rideshare a lot. And at one point, like, I think it was in 21 or something, my bills were like $800, $900 a month on
Sure.
like, in.
It can easily go there because it's a convenience addiction, right?
Yeah, completely. And so for me, it was just like, it made natural sense to, like, and I actually started using the app, and I started saving money. I was a very loyal Uber user. I only used Uber because I just couldn't be bothered, with anything else. I think I had Uber One on top of it. But then I started using the app, and I started using Curb. I started using Lyft, and there was actually like a diversity in my options, and my bill went down. And I started paying like $600 a month instead for rideshare.
So let me stop you there. This is not a static price. This is live pricing and live availability?
Yes.
Wow. So there's got to be a back-end connection there way above my pay grade from a tech perspective.
Yeah, we're able to pull pricing via accounts. And there's a secret sauce behind that as well. We have API links to some of the providers. And the goal there is to create consumer transparency in price.
So talk about that. I mean, that's your value prop. Besides, by the way, that's total added convenience. That I can find out who's available, what the prices are from all of them without opening up their individual apps.
Correct.
Per se, right? And then I make a choice, and it can either automatically open up that app, or I just go out and I open it up. But you do the shopping for me.
Yeah, we'll deep link you into the app as long as the app is on your phone.
It can be that easy. If you're much smarter than me and you can actually connect the two things together, my business partner would do it. So that's easy. So talk to me about the price transparency aspect, because, heretofore, that's been a problem for the TNCs. I could take the same trip, and it's dramatically, as George Bush would say, dramatically different dramatically different each time. And that's really irritating. I mean, I even noticed it last week or 2 weeks ago when I was in New York because I did take a TNC. But like a month and a half ago, I took the same trip and it was unbelievably less expensive. It was the same time.
Dynamic pricing, right?
So talk to us about pricing transparency and the sentiment of the consumers, the sentiment of the users.
Look, like we are growing organically. We don't spend a lot on marketing. And we saw our user base double last year because consumers are paying more for rideshare than they ever were before. They're also taking more trips. So you're seeing this market is growing, right? I mean, rideshare has gotten sexy again because of AVs and people are excited about what's happening in autonomous vehicles. They're like enthusiastic about the experience they're getting, but fundamentally they were taking more rides anyway. They were paying more for rideshare anyway. And when we look at what we're doing in terms of dynamic pricing, there's multiple things that affect it at any given time. We know that we've done research that weather, obviously, time of day, traffic patterns, supply and demand, the availability of cars at any given moment, obviously makes a huge difference.
Location and reference to events like concerts and football games.
Completely. Like congestion pricing, in rideshare has existed always, right? Because the price is going to go up. And I think that, the dynamism of the pricing is a reason that apps like ours exist. People expect this from airlines. They expect airlines to have different prices on different days, different times. There's a lot of gamification around when should you be looking for like a flight. Rideshare doesn't exist in that way because it's an immediate demand, right? You go out and you wanted to hail a taxi back in the day. You call a car now from your phone. It's really where you are in any given moment, and you need it. You need the demand to meet you at that moment. The idea that price should be static is, I think it's unrealistic, and it was unrealistic in the taxi industry, right? And back then, they used to have surcharges for rush hour or other aspects of it. Now they have surcharges for congestion pricing. If you're in New York City, right, you're coming into Midtown or downtown, you have to pay more to do that. And I think that's to be expected in any kind of dynamic market. The difference, and I think where consumers get frustrated, is they don't understand why the price is changing and why it's so different. And I think that there's a black box around a lot of these algorithms, but we do know there are key factors that influence it. It's supply, it's traffic on the streets, it's time of day, it's weather. And those are the four biggest things that are going to influence your price.
Okay. So are you at the point where you're saying, listen, if you waited, this would cost you much less? Do you have to go right now?
Yeah. So we have the data to do it. We have the data.
Don't tell me the secret sauce because I can't keep a secret.
Yeah.
But so this is.
We also have the data to say walk 2 blocks, and your price is going to go down.
Isn't that something?
We may or may not be rolling out those types of features in the future, but we've had that type of data for a very long time.
Okay. So why wouldn't a consumer download Obi?
I mean, there's no reason not to. If you take a rideshare app and you're going to be in a major city, you should download Obi. You will save money. You'll save between 10 to 30% per ride.
Wow.
Yeah. And what we know from consumers, this is just like rideshare is a commodity. There is some level of brand loyalty. We see it about 10 to 20% brand loyalty.
Interesting.
Among consumers. But most consumers, especially American consumers who spend the most on rideshare, are really like a $1 difference will swing 90% of users.
And it's interesting to me, and I've had these esoteric discussions about, doesn't it have to be more than price at some point? When you're building a brand based on lowest price, at some point it needs to be about more, right? So look, I would say no, there's no reason why any corporation or any individual wouldn't download Obi. Do you have, and again, no secret sauce, do you have any ideas about going after the corporate space and offering corporate portals or corporate travel management tools?
We've been approached by a few folks about it, but it wasn't like a serious enough discussion for us to really engage. I think that we could definitely help companies save money. There's no question about it. I think that, it's not an area we've explored a lot. We'd be very open, so reach out if you're interested in talking to us about it. But definitely, it is fundamentally a consumer app on the go for users.
How deep is your tech bench? Again, just
what do you mean by that question?
you said you're introducing some new features, and I love the fact in an urban area you can say to me, listen, get some exercise, walk 500 feet that way, and I'm going to save you $3.
Yeah.
Do you have the tech, the back end to keep developing the app that way as the value prop moves forward?
Yeah. Because, Obi's been in the market now for about 5 years. So
based
there's
in
a lot of data.
Netherlands?
No, we're based in New York City, in Union Square. We have offices in France and Poland, where we have a lot of our team. So a lot of our team is European.
And your founder, who is your founder?
The founder is Payam Safa. He started the company about 10 years ago under a different brand and different value prop. We pivoted to Obi in 2019, 2020. And he is based in Los Angeles. So we're a very distributed team and very close-knit team, though, I would say. And, I think we're a very, very technical team. And it's like 85% of people on the team are engineers and data scientists.
Awesome. Data is our life, but somewhat more rudimentary than what you deal. And we do a lot of M&A data. We do financial metrics financial metrics. If you want to know what the average company spends for fuel, driver labor, et cetera, where your people, what the gross margins are on the by reservation side. So how are you viewed by the rideshare companies, as complementary or as a competitor, or how are you viewed?
I like to think of us as a co-operator.
Sure.
I think there's been resistance in the rideshare industry to moving into meta aggregation and meta search. And there's a reason for it. They learned the lessons via hotels and airlines and other platforms, or other aspects of the travel and mobility industry. That being said, there is an acknowledgement that consumers really like using us, and there's an acknowledgement that our data is very valuable. And so we do sell our data, and there are rideshare companies that buy our data sets. So
sure,
we have it's a push-pull relationship, and it's imperfect, but it's there. And I think as time goes on, my hope is that there will be more rideshare companies that embrace the idea of direct booking within Obi, putting and having more of a integrated relationship with us, because I think it's just going to drive engagement and drive more optionality for the consumer.
Well, and let's talk about optionality opening up, right? I've become obsessed with autonomous vehicles. Every day, every day our databases from Dow Jones or from Dun & Bradstreet or from PitchBook or from Crunchbase or from Bloomberg, we search everything autonomous vehicle. And I can't get over when I started doing tracking the data, I'd get 5 articles a week. Now I get 10 a day.
Yeah.
When we started doing the data not aggregation, but research, etc., there were no financial institutions doing reports on autonomous, and now JP Morgan's got one, Goldman's got one, PitchBook's got one, and it's a deep dive into the autonomous space. When you look at what's just taken place over the last 12 months with the expansion of Waymo, with Tesla's entry into autonomous, give us an idea of where you think both the rideshare landscape, are there other players going to come into the U.S. market? And then give us an idea of where you think autonomous is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. What you're seeing is like a rapid acceleration, right? Like it was the idea of like
Massive.
AGI, like, coming, like, when you look at OpenAI and what happened when they rolled out GPT, it was the first consumer brand. People embraced it and it just started to take off, right? And it's impacted now an entire industry around search and the internet and how people source information because there was consumer enthusiasm for it.
Absolutely.
And it was a superior product that was highly well delivered and had spent many, many, many years in a, like in the back, like, with the curtain pull, like the curtain, like drawn. And I think that's the exact same thing that's happened with rideshare and AVs. I think the rollout of OpenAI and GPT is really a good example of how Waymo has rolled out its cars. The level of enthusiasm for a Waymo ride is massive. They were very careful. They were thoughtful. It's a very high-end experience in taking a car. It's a novelty for many consumers to actually do it. It's kind of like a tourist attraction for people that are visiting San Francisco or Phoenix or LA. And it is a great experience in the car. And what our research has shown is that though the price is 30 to 40% higher, sometimes 2 times higher.
Than typical Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
2 to 3 times, it can be 2 to 3 times higher.
It can at times because there's very few cars, right?
Of course, and they've got to maximize the income, no question.
And they're maximizing the income. And what we know is that once a consumer has taken the ride, 70% prefer it to being in the car with the driver.
It's funny. I'm an old-time chauffeur guy. I started my limo company in 2005 after I had retired from the medical arm industry, and I'll never forgive the guy that told me to get into the limo business. But anyway, and the biggest issue we had was the driver. Meaning, if you had a driver on point, he was recommended by name 5-10 times more than anybody else, which had its own challenges. But then when you had people that complained about driving, number one, it was absolutely unsafe driving, or the braking issues, or changing lanes without blinkers, because that passenger in the back is a critic, right? But I was surprised how many people complained and said, I don't want this driver. And it was for non-issues relating to safety. They just couldn't keep their mouth shut. They didn't practice matching and mirroring. And then when you looked at the safety aspects, and I think you'll agree, the AV companies have done a fantastic job at putting the safety data forward.
Yeah.
As a part of their value prop, they identified and said, people are going to question whether these things are actually safe. And they've had, I think it's UBS did a report I believe with Waymo. So they did a research report, and I know the Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association, which we follow, did a tremendous report. And the safety all the data points point to it being exponentially safer than a human being.
They drive very slowly if you've taken a car.
Right. So, okay. So you have to
Takes
adjust
you forever
to that.
to get from point A to point B, in my opinion. This is my personal opinion. It's not official research. But like my personal opinion is it takes you forever to get from point A to point B, but it's a good experience getting there.
We deal with there isn't any of the largest chauffeur networks in the country that we don't deal with. I mean, the phones ring off the hook with the guys that own those companies. And then most of the large regionals, 20 million and above, 10 million and above. And there's a guy in Phoenix that I really admire. And he's a very quiet, unassuming guy, runs a $30-40 million operation. And he made a comment to me because I said to him, when I went there, I spoke in front of a bunch of limo guys that do black sedan, black car. And I said, is this affecting you? And almost all of them said no. Now, then I went and took 25 Uber rides, and every one of them said, it's affecting us. But the gentleman that I admired the most in that marketplace said to me, it is, Ken. I can't put a number on it, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I'd put my mother and my kids in an autonomous vehicle before I would put them in an Uber. And I thought that was very telling. And when you think about the aspects that the TNCs must deal with, the human component, wouldn't you agree that's a lot of their problems? I mean, a lot of their issues have, when you look at even the worst news, forget about data points, just the news stories, right?
Yeah. I want to drill down on the point you just made that I would put my mother and a kid in an autonomous vehicle. That is exactly what our survey research has found. We surveyed 5,000 consumers. It's the largest consumer survey on AVs that has been done thus far. And that fact is what blew our mind, that people were more willing to trust an AV with their kids and with elderly relatives or anyone they deemed vulnerable.
Sure.
Over putting it in the car with the standard driver. And of course, we know that kids take Ubers and they take Lyfts and they take rideshare.
Yep.
But they are more comfortable doing that. And I thought that was a really fascinating fact. And that was
100%.
something that stood out to me the most in the data set. Like, I knew that there was going to be enthusiasm, and we're going to be running another survey and we're going to be coming out with more research soon. But like, I knew that there'd be enthusiasm. I knew people would like the experience in the car. I took tons of Waymos and I saw it myself. But what I didn't expect was like that trust factor would just leap as much as it did.
Sure.
And I think that's huge.
That's huge.
It's huge.
And let's drill down a little bit further and look at the female business traveler.
Right.
A female, I think the number now is about 42% of corporate travel is they're female, and a lot of them are female executives. But you have female management, you have trainers, you have the road warriors that
right.
The 25s to 30s. That's the number one issue that corporations have, is the safety and duty of care aspect. That risk goes completely away when they embrace autonomous.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say that, look, like, I take a ton of rideshare. I've only had issues 4 times that I can distinctly remember, where I literally like messaged like the app like after the ride was over, or like was asked to get out of to get out of the car. It's only happened to me 3 or 4 times, and it's never been like something that's like that, like whatever, it's fine. And I think it's because I'm in major cities and places where they're mostly professional drivers, right? Like New York, London, etc.
Sure.
But I would say like safety is a real thing. We saw the New York Times piece that came out, and I think that prioritizing safety is something that, we all have a responsibility for. And it's something that it's like, if you take off the element of the car is unsafe.
Yes. It's a moving object, 6,000 pounds.
So the car is unsafe. But
Sure.
then if you remove the human element of like, feeling unsafe, it makes people far, far more comfortable.
And before we go any further, whatever that survey costs, please, I'll pay for it, because I'm doing a state of the industry talk, and one of the pieces that I've been asked to touch upon is AVs, because I've done a deep dive on it, but I have a lot of people who think, well, that's not going to bother the chauffeured space. I disagree. For some of the reasons you just talked about. There is good data out there that how it will, quote, disrupt the TNCs, meaning moving them from human driver over to AV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you followed the announcement that Uber partnered with Nuro, who I'm a huge fan of that company, even though I can't get the CEO to come on. That's okay. He's busy. And they partnered with Lucid to build 6,000 premium SUVs.
Yeah.
That was another bellwether to me.
Yeah.
So you just hit upon, well, consumers are going to think they're unsafe. They're not going to want to use them. No, your data shows the opposite.
Yeah.
When we watch the traditional TNCs, and there was another one today where Lyft is doing a similar partnership with another autonomous vehicle company. When we watch the TNCs move fast into autonomous, what do you think, if you had 1,000 rideshare drivers out there today, how many rideshare drivers do you think they're going to be in 5 years in the major metropolitan areas?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, like, what I was at this, they had an urban autonomy summit this
I
week
was
in
so
New York City.
unhappy to meet. Yeah, I didn't.
It was incredible.
It wasn't on my radar.
It was a room of very, very impressive people, and I was very happy to be in attendance. And one of the board members of the Taxi and Limousine Commission pointed out that New York City has as many professional drivers as like residents in the city of Pittsburgh. Like,
Sure.
like,
Sure.
and do I think there's going to be a dent there? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like I think there'll be a dent. We just don't know how much yet. We have seen that there's been an impact now on driver earnings to some degree. But I think what you're pointing out is like, I think there's a lot of wishful thinking that the AVs are just going to go hang out in the outer boroughs and pick up people there. No, I mean, these are expensive rides and they're luxury cars, and it depends on the car, right? Like it depends. There's going to be like as in any, Uber also started out as a high-end service. And then
Yes, they did.
eventually introduced UberX, and Lyft came out into the market, and it changed the market dynamics. So everyone started taking those cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that a similar thing is going to happen where it actually may be a high-end entrant initially,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll see that filter down based on the cost of the vehicle and, the competition on price overall. But I do believe that it's, there was this theory that, the drivers are only going to be in Manhattan because there's no way an AV can get through Times Square.
Want to bet?
Yeah, I would bet against that bet, like, right?
They're mapping in Boston, Philadelphia, and New York from, my data points say is going very well.
Well,
mapping.
I just saw Waymo come off the Williamsburg Bridge into Brooklyn. I had walked the bridge and I was like walking on Broadway, saw it, and I was like, for a second, for a second, I actually thought there was no one in the car because it was dark and I couldn't see. And then I took a video, and in my video, I could see that there was someone there. But the idea that you were going across, if you have to like know those streets, but to go across the bridge, come off the bridge, and then turn onto Broadway, I mean, they are mapping it, right?
They are, and so we'll get into a tech maybe a little bit down the road,
Yeah.
but let's talk specifically about the cost of the vehicle. So we've done some financial pro formas, and the brains of this company is not me. It's my business partner who has a degree in corporate finance. Mm-hmm. He is an artiste with anything Excel. He can make Excel do things that the developers didn't even think about. So we just did for a client that has engaged us a review of 5 different AV vehicles, and because of that, I had to study the Waymo capex on taking a regular factory Jaguar, and putting all of their AV on it, and it was about $165,000.
Right.
Now, the funny thing is, Waymo is now shifting, and it's been public, and Waymo's not a client, but Waymo is now experimenting in Phoenix with the Zeek, which is a Chinese SUV, with seating where we're facing each other inside the vehicle, similar to the ZooX unit.
Yeah.
That unit comes out of the factory at $54,000, and they put $25,000 of AV equipment on it. It's an $80,000 build now, compared to $165,000. I mean, they've cut it in half. Where is it going to be 3 to 5 years from now? I think that at some point they're going to get to be commonplace, and perhaps be as even as what we're paying for passenger cars now. It'll be AV equipped.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
do you follow anything? Do you follow the AV that's going on in China right now at all?
Yeah. I read about, I believe I was reading more about Grab.
Yes.
Because they did the partnership in Singapore, but I'm blanking on the name of the company. And I can't remember if it was a Chinese company or not.
So, J.P. Morgan and Goldman did a fantastic job at dissecting the current market in China. There are 30,000 AVs.
Wow.
In the top 6 cities. Don't ask me what the top 6 cities are, but in the top 6 cities. And what got me is they've converted the autonomous vehicle industry over there is huge. They've converted companies that used to make cell phones that are 5 football fields long and they're pushing out these AVs. And we've got a report coming out on AV similar to that we'll share. But each vehicle generates $30,000 in revenue, and Goldman and JP fix the gross profit margin, which is where I live, at approaching 50%. Now,
Wow.
you put a car and a driver together and you do airport service, you're lucky to make 35% gross. We have the data on 280 of the biggest companies, or 280 companies. 35 gross, you're humming along at 35 gross. Bigger equipment, you make more money. Well, my point is, China is, in the case of TNCs, in the ride shares, we were at the epicenter. I don't think we're the epicenter of AVs. I think it's China is the
Totally.
epicenter.
I think so too.
Totally.
I think so too.
So talk to us a little bit about your expansion plans. And where are you going to expand next?
So we have really focused on Sub-Saharan Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern,
Sure.
Western, Ghana, South Africa,
Yep.
Kenya. We're looking really strongly. We've done a lot of work in the Emirates now, Abu Dhabi,
Sure.
Dubai.
Yeah.
We've started
Yep.
to expand. India has been a big market for us the entire time, very quietly grown and just huge organic growth there. And now we're very consciously like kind of actually targeting marketing spend into Singapore and Southeast Asia.
A lot of autonomous coming in Southeast Asia.
And I think that these markets, US, we just think about ourselves a lot, but these markets are huge, right? We are obviously looking at LATAM, but we haven't put as much effort into it as, because I just don't find it as competitive and large as some of these other markets. But we're spending a lot of money and time there. We're looking for new providers. There are new companies rolling out. There's a lot of investment happening. Where there's an interest in bringing AVs onto platforms. I just talked to a new company that's going to roll out in Zimbabwe and South Africa that's looking to acquire AVs, that's looking to acquire drivers, and wants to create a new rideshare service. Like, transportation is a need. We're more mobile than ever. The populations of these countries are more mobile than ever, and it doesn't surprise me that China's like the first. I mean, they've been the first in a lot of things around technology. If you go into these cities, and for better or for worse, regulation may or may not be hindering that technology growth. I think it's great that we're being hyper careful and safe in the US, but we often do things at a much higher cost than we do internationally. I went to business school at Cambridge in the UK, and they had a term that they would use there called jugad, right? And it's the idea that you have fewer resources, so you can't build the way the Western world builds. You have to build in a more nimble, faster way and leap to the next solution, right? And I think that that's what's happening in these markets. So even you brought up Zoox. Is it Zoo X or is it Zoox? I always call it Zoox.
No, so okay, so Zeek is the Chinese AV manufacturer that Waymo is using, and that's SUVs being tested in Phoenix. I call it ZooX. You're probably right. It's probably Zoox. Zoox owned by Amazon. They built a huge manufacturing facility to build these vehicles in California, in Silicon Valley, and they've deployed the vehicles in Las Vegas. Now, I don't expect you to know this, but the chauffeur-driven limo show is in Las Vegas every year. This is the first year we're going to go there, and we're going to see those autonomous vehicles.
Right, and
on
going
the
back
road.
and forth across the strip.
Right.
I brought up the car because, it's literally it's going back and forth, right? It's just literally going like
There's
this
no
for right
back,
now.
there's no front.
There's no front. There's
There's
no steering wheel. There's all these things, right? And that's the idea. Like when you look in a Waymo, it's built like a traditional car, to a degree.
Yes.
And
Sure.
the idea of what these things will look like, how many people they can take, the ways that they'll move, I think a lot of that is like influx. And as we think about urban, rural, and semi-urban environments globally, the types of cars that will succeed there are, we just don't know. And I would tell you, having taken a minibus in South Africa, might as well be in an autonomous vehicle. If you know what that is, it's you hop on, it's a private ride. There's a bunch of people packed in, like transportation is quite messy all over the world. People
Yes.
ride it in large numbers together. And if you're starting to improve that experience and autonomize it, it is a trillion, more than $1 trillion opportunity, right? Like, I think it's huge. And I think that a lot of cars are coming out and they're going to be doing them far cheaper outside the US.
Yes, and let's face it, when you're talking about China, you're talking about the fact that the government, the regulatory is embedded with the manufacturing. So
Right.
they're going to have a competitive advantage not waiting. I was waiting for regulatory to catch up. Very good friend of mine, and I'd love to introduce him if you don't know him, is a gentleman named Matt Dawes. And Matt Dawes is basically he is the president of the Transportation Regulators Association. He was a vice mayor in New York City,
Oh,
I think
cool.
under Giuliani, but he was also the commissioner of the taxi
TLC.
authority,
Yeah.
so, the TLC. And his Windles Marks, his law firm, they're the ones that basically do most of the transportation legal work. And he said to me, we are just so far behind on the regulatory, we've not caught up. I was fascinated to see that I think it was Tesla got from the federal government basically a permit to go from the National Highway Safety Council or whatever it is. And I should have it here, but they were given the green light to test autonomous vehicles pretty much anywhere they wanted.
I mean,
So think about what you said. When we look at that parallel, there was a perfect parallel between AI and AV, and it's moving at that speed. And the stakeholders are going to continue to push it. And I think with safety as the forefront, what do you think it looks like in 5 years? I mean, Uber has said 6,000 of these AV premium units are going to be deployed in the United States in 2026. They've committed to 20,000 of these units. I mean, shoot, they gave Lucid 300 million, they gave Neuro 300 million, and they committed to buy 20,000 of these units. What do you think New York looks like if you drill down and you say there's 14,000 yellow cabs there now? What do you think happens in 5 years?
I mean, I think you see it in San Francisco. Everywhere
Oh
you
yeah.
look, you see a Waymo or a Zoox, right?
Yep.
And the Zoox,
Yep.
obviously, they're testing right now, but you see the Waymo cars everywhere.
Yes.
Harder to spot, like a Uber or Lyft, to be sure. But the point being is that the nature of transportation has shifted. And I think that in areas like New York, I think what we're going to see is a return to the pre-pandemic days, where Via was like a really popular option as a public car, right?
Yeah.
It's become, now it does like more government transport, but people used to love it, right? Because it was a pooled ride. They'd
Explain
hop
what
in.
VIA is for the audience that doesn't know.
Via was another rideshare company, but it did pooled rides. So it was a minivan,
Yeah.
right? And you could get in, very cheap. I mean, it was like what, $4 to go
Yeah.
downtown. It was very little
Yeah.
money. You could pop in. It took you a little bit longer to get where you needed to go. It only operated in Manhattan, but it allowed people to hop on and hop off with great ease. And they had really great mapping software, so they could get you to where you needed to go, and multiple people would be in the ride. And I think that we're going to start seeing some smaller transportation options like that. I think the other things that, they're talking a lot about buses and bus routes in New York right now. The idea that, there are major places to work that are well outside of Manhattan, that are in the outer boroughs, and it takes a lot of work for people to get there. And I think that starting to see these types of autonomous vehicles deployed to take, 6 passengers at a time, 8 passengers at a time, 10 passengers at a time, I think you'll start to see, my prediction is that, of course, we'll have the individual rides and the individual cars as we think of rideshare now. But I think you're going to see a lot more pooling, and the idea of 3, 4, 5, 6 people in a car, in a
Absolutely.
minivan or whatever it's going to look like.
And the last mile from transit stations to downtown, from downtown
Exactly.
to corporate campuses. I mean, that's another use case that we're working on now, is because we have a lot of clients in the corporate shuttle space. and there's an AV shuttle company whose name shall, leave it out. But they said to us, build us a model for 20 of these units that are going to go from the public transit station here, here, and here. And we just built it out where there's a cost per mile, repair, maintenance, supervision, cleaning, et cetera, et cetera. So you're right. And then the other use case I think you're going to see even sooner is closed campus. And even behind the scenes at airport, because I'm getting wind that they don't like all those people, out in the tarmac. Can we do something with AVs?
Right.
But I think what we're saying is, there's one thing to call, and I hate this term, this robo-taxi, okay? And I'm coining a term that I frankly hope will be on my Wikipedia page, right? And not the one if I pay for one, I mean a real one. To me, it's autonomous livery, okay? It's autonomous mobility.
Livery.
Right. See, we come from the chauffeured space. The origin word is livery from the UK, and right. But when people say robotaxi, our industry on the luxury side or the executive transportation or even group and meeting will say that doesn't apply to me. And I say to them, guys, it's all fun and games until you see the first RFP that says, give us a price for AV shuttles on our campus for our corporate to go for our employee shuttle. So I'm with you on one use case is replacement of the TNC driver or the taxi driver. I think that AV is the death knell to taxi, I think. I think it is.
This conference I was at on Wednesday, there was a lot of like, what are drivers going to do next, right? They're like, they can be in maintenance, they can be this. And there was one guy from Tower Mobility, and he said, these aren't gig jobs to maintain a fleet. You have to have reliable workforce that shows up at a certain time and leaves at a certain time.
Oh, God. I mean, no question. And the more and the vehicles with the more passenger capacity, you go over 16, somebody's going to send me an email.
Yeah.
It's either 15 or 16. It's all DOT certification. And they're absolutely right. That's where we built out our use cases, where you have the maintenance staff, you have the detailers, you have management, you have the logistics people. The driver is about 30 to 35% of the cost in by reservation chauffeured. And I know on the rideshare side, the rideshare companies try to keep 70%, et cetera. I want to touch a third rail, and I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I have a problem with the rideshare companies. Let's leave names out of it. I believe that the rideshare companies at certain times have been guilty of worker exploitation, and they exploit some of the weakest people in our society that are not perhaps, English is their second language, and they maybe their skill set isn't that. And it bothers me that there's been such a problem that for them to make a living wage, meaning I've spent this part of my career, or the past 7 years, teaching operators, here's your cost of goods. This is what it takes to turn the key. This is what your labor cost is. This is what your gross margin is. And it bothers me immensely to see advertisements for rideshare companies, and they've quelled now, but back then you can make $40 an hour. No, you can't. That's your gross. That's not what you keep. Let me teach you what you're actually going to keep. How does the price transparency impact the driver?
It's funny. I was speaking at this conference I was at. They were talking about the impact on the driver, and the idea, well, drivers can have these different types of jobs, and but we know that driver earnings have gone down. Driver earnings have gone down prior to AVs. And that's from New York City TLC data. Yes. If you go to the TLC, you can download data, and you can see it. You can see it through companies like Gridwise and their reports, et cetera. So they're
really solid reports. They're solid reports.
The earnings are there. You can see that driver earnings have gone down. while prices on consumers have gone up, right? Because, there's a push towards profitability as any company has a responsibility to do to its shareholders.
They have to.
But I would also say, though, that I think that the big difference here as we think about AVs is that it speaks to a larger technology disruption. And it's a question of where do people go in terms of the types of jobs they have and what they're doing. And I think that the big question we have and has not been answered for is that driving is one of the biggest occupations in the United States.
Oh, for everything.
And globally, honestly.
For everything.
And the ripple effect is not just rideshare drivers, it's truck drivers, it's all kinds of other drivers
Absolutely.
overall.
100%.
I do think that, when we think about margins and stuff, there was a time when driving for Uber and Lyft really was a profitable exercise, right?
Yep.
But the point is the maintenance of the car and all the things and the cost of inflation and everything else has obviously eroded that.
Insurance, which
And
is
insurance.
a huge issue,
Yeah.
which we could spend a day talking about the impact of AVs on insurance. Some of, we have a lot of people that we talk to who are, I just had the president of one of the largest for-hire insurance companies on last week, and the verdict is still out because insurance companies exist on data. They exist on actuary, and there's none on autonomous except for what the autonomous. And he asked me, he said, have you looked at the data? I said, it's pretty damn solid. Even though it is so much in conjunction with Waymo is the one I'm talking about, it ain't fudged. It's safe. It's safe. So they've got to grapple with that. I do think that getting back to the drivers, I don't like the gig economy. I don't. It doesn't feed into the social safety net. To me, it is, in some cases, it's intellectually dishonest to say to someone, use your asset, by the way, an ever depreciating asset, and you're going to make, okay? And then what happens is they try it for 90 days or they try it for 12 months, and at the end of 12 months, they're upside down on their vehicle. So I'm not really unhappy to see. I think that there will be a shift, obviously, and those drivers won't go destitute, but they'll go do other things. Just like AI, we're going to have to face that. Well, I want to end with, how do we find, if I'm a consumer, where do I go to download the Obi app? You've done a great job talking about the value.
Thank you.
Talk to us about, how do we get on the Obi app? And
so it's in the Google Play Store. It's in the App Store. You can download it, sign up. It's super easy. Test it out. Give it a try. Next time you're at the airport and you're thinking of taking a rideshare or a taxi, it's a good place to call it and use it to compare prices. And airports in particular is where you're going to see the greatest savings.
And
And then if you're traveling outside the U.S. in particular, it's a great option. Most American travelers just use Uber, but there's a lot of cheaper options out there if you're using our app.
An ever-changing landscape every single day. And what I love about Obi is the value prop of, why wouldn't I do this?
Yeah,
there's no reason not
unless you don't want to
this.
save money.
Right. And you know what? I'm just going to throw it out there. I think you're in a position that you're going to keep these guys. You're going to keep them all honest. I do want to ask one question. Are you interested in having the premium black cars on there? And let us know how we can help you with that.
We would love to connect with black car companies that would like to be on our platform, especially if you have your own app.
And you're doing by reservation, a little bit more of a guarantee that the vehicle's going to be there. So Ashwini Anburajan, I apologize, from Obi, which is rideobi.com. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are. Every time I connect with you, you're at a different city. I really appreciate you coming on. I have a feeling it's not going to be the last time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. And listen, have a great restful weekend. And let's stay in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.